Hi, everybody. I want to welcome Becky Niles. She is a coach, and this is going to be our coach to coach corner. And I'm going to be asking Becky a few questions about how she coaches and what's going on. How are you doing, Becky?
I'm awesome. How about you, Raymond?
Really good. It's been a while since we've seen each other, so it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has.
Yeah. So, Becky, you're known as pretty much the fat queen. Is that right?
I am. I
Yeah.
am. Yep.
So you
That
specialize
is.
in getting people accommodated to fats, I'm assuming, or why did you get that name?
Yep. So the reason why I got that name is I do eat a good percentage of my diet high fat. That's how I ended up and gained my benefits of, the carnivore lifestyle, was by doing a higher fat percentage. So anywhere from 80-20 to 90-10 percentage is how I ended up. And so I have found many sources for fats, where to get it, how to source it, what types of fats, and the benefits of eating fats. So that's kind of how I ended up and got my name, was
Yeah, that makes
by.
sense. That's great. Yeah, because I see a lot of the recipes that you have on YouTube about because the whole question is like, other than butter, everybody understands butter, but how do I
Yep.
get my fats? Yeah. So when your clients contact you, do they mainly contact you because they're low fat intake? And how do you know, how would you say, do they know that they need more fat?
So I have many clients, anywhere from those that are struggling with the lifestyle, just feeling like they can't get satiated, like constantly hungry,
Hmm.
to women such as myself that has hormonal, anywhere from cycling females to people as myself that had a hysterectomy but are still
Mm.
dealing with some symptoms.
Hmm.
And I also kind of get anywhere in between of those that are maybe looking to add more fat for the energy factor or therapeutic factor, um, that are needing that boost of how do I, how can I incorporate it? How can I transition? How can I adapt? What's the easiest ways? So that's kind of where I get them from all over, including because I am a data tracker, adjusting macros. How can I,
Yes.
get the macros out to work out? I also do a lot of tracking in myself of my glucose. So, and I've got stability by eating, the higher fat, moderate protein. So I get those people too. I've had type ones and type twos reach out to me in regards to how I'm managing, how I kind of do it. Because I've been an open book with all my data that I've accumulated. So
Right.
yeah.
So now, do you work with a lot of your clients as far as accountability or troubleshooting, or what's your preference on that?
So I take the whole approach. So
Mhm.
I end up and not only the accountability factor of being there, being able to check in with them, and them knowing that they have someone to check into, so it kind of holds them accountable. But I also take it and focus on like all the pillars because it is important to manage our stress. You know,
Yes.
I take my daily routine because especially on the glucose side of things, as we end up stressed, our cortisol can go up, it can impact the glucose. And so it's just kind of a vicious cycle, and you can kind of be a hamster in a wheel. So I do take the whole approach. I call it my pillars of health, and focus on more than just the nutrition aspect. And, you
Nice.
know, I've, I have several clients that reach out to me and are like, hey, I'm waking up a couple times in the night. I have a very high stressful job. What can I end up and do? So I've replicated per se, my routine of getting up, getting sunshine, getting, out there with nature, um, into my clients. And really, we have journals that we use.
Hmm.
And so we end up, we go through like 12 different points on these pillars of health to focus on, head to toe, basically, is what I call it, focusing on our mental health down to the grounding techniques. So of putting our feet on the earth.
Feet on
So
the earth. Nice, nice. I'm glad
it's
you're doing that.
it's
Yeah.
it's a whole head to toe
Mhm.
type thing, because if we don't, then like I said, it's just hamster in a wheel, and you keep chasing yourself and you never really truly heal.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I think it is a whole approach. While whole approach is best, yes. So, do you feel like do you ever have a lot of these clients coming to you for asking about weight loss? Because that happens to me a lot.
Yeah, that is one of, and I, host the weight loss meeting for Meet
Right,
RX too, and that is one of the biggest, is trying to get people confident in the process and trusting that process.
right.
Um, there's really no quick fix, and those that end up and do get the quick fix tend to have a rebound effect.
Rebound. Mhm.
So, keeping with the process, trusting the process, not feeling like, they need to lose this drastic weight in 2 weeks, because
Right.
it is truly a lifestyle versus um, a quick fix.
No, I agree. And could you tell us a little bit about your pillars of health? I mean, you mentioned grounding. Is exercise part of that, or how many
Movement,
pillars are
yep.
there? Movement. Okay.
Yep. So movement, because, and you do kind of have, it is very individualized. So it's not necessarily a cookie cutter. It's taking the person from where they're at to where they're able to go. So someone
Right.
that is maybe very sedentary isn't going to be in the gym working out 6 days a week, because you're
Exactly.
going to cause them stress. So taking that individual where they're at, and support, we already addressed the accountability
Mhm.
factor, being there for them, making them feel like, they're not alone in this process. Stress management, whether that's meditation, quiet music, whatever practice they want to practice, we go through that and we work on that. Like I said, we talked about getting outside. Sunrise works for some people, some sunset, some end up and do both, um,
Yes.
because that also will help the sleep cycle. So also, earthing outside can kind of go in combination with the movement, walk around in that morning sunlight, get that,
Mhm.
evening sunlight, evening walk. And also, there again, if you get out in the evening and you walk, it helps with glucose stability. So, obviously, nutrition, I meet them where they're at. Are they keto? Are they looking at ketovore? Are they looking at full carnivore?
Right.
Some even have to go full lion diet. So it's really taking each person, their goals, where they're at, and tailoring a plan for them. And then, like I said, we focused on sleep, getting into all those sleep cycles, and not just getting sleep. I mean, anyone can say, yeah, I, got 6, 8, 7, 8 hours of sleep, but did you truly get good sleep?
Hmm.
Because that plays a factor. If you don't sleep well, it impacts the next day. Um, the movement, and then also hydration is my last pillar, because so many people don't drink. It's a fine line between those that drink too much and
Overdrink.
deplete
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
or end up and don't drink enough. Um, or drink,
I
it's
agree.
very
I get a
tailored,
lot of that.
because
Yeah.
you can get the person that's drinking, you know,
A gallon a
two
day just
glasses
because
of
they think
water.
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then the other
two
side.
glasses
Yeah.
of water at a meal, and then they're having issues with their stomach acid and not
Right.
able to digest things.
Right.
So, it's all that aspect. So,
Right. And there is a fine balance on all of it. So now,
mhm.
I know you're a data nerd. Do you help with your clients, or is your style to get your clients to also track, or is that not? It depends on what they want.
It depends on what they want. So if they are, because it can be stressful for some. So
Right.
if there's someone that it's going to end up and stress them out,
Hmm.
then absolutely not. If it's someone that can take the data, not end up and worry about, if they miss a day, like for instance, I just had this conversation with one of my clients today. Um, my fitness pal was down the other day. And as you know, I track every day, and I have for several years, but
Hmm.
it didn't stress me.
Hmm.
It didn't interrupt my daily routine. I still ate my meals. I still ended up and went about my day
Right.
just as I normally would. So it's not that type of a stress to me. And if it is, or if you're going to be someone that worries, then absolutely not. They don't need to track. It can be very beneficial because if things come up along the road and you don't know what to, adjust or
For
what you've been
troubleshooting.
doing,
Right.
then you have nowhere to start.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so it's handy for troubleshooting purposes
yep.
on your case, for example, a CGM. What tracking would you do if your clients wanted some kind of tracking? What would your ideal tracking be?
Well, so I've worked with many clients in regard, I mean, I've had some that have done the CGMs.
Mhm.
Now, let me stop and say I'm not a medical professional.
Right.
So, I read that as a coach and as someone that had personal experience with those products,
Hmm.
um, and how I was able to make them work for me.
Right.
Um, so I've had people with CGMs, I've had people that end up in track, and that's kind of adds, circles back to the accountability factor because it depending upon which app they use, when they are my committed clients, they submit their entries to me for the day. So I'm able to see what they ate. In my fitness pal, they don't have to send it. We just are friends on my fitness pal. But like if they use Carb Manager, Chronometer, any of those, then they email them to me. And so that kind of holds another
Mm.
level of accountability
Yeah, great
because they
idea.
know I'm going to see their meals.
Right.
So that tracking aspect, I have some that have, the Aura Ring for sleep. They're
Mm.
able to end up, but then my majority ends up and just has a journal, and we end up and we get in this journal. It's a shared journal, confidential, between them and I. That's the only two
Hmm.
people that see it, and
Hmm.
we focus on all these different, bullet points that they address in a day. And when we work on mindset, we also work on like gratitude, we work on self
Hmm.
reflection, we work on journal, actual journal entry so that we are able to get it's kind of the whole circle of energy. We're able to end up and get that thought process out. And it's not just sitting there stewing in our mind. We can put it in there. Now I go in there and I read that. Now I don't necessarily, unless I have something to add or to coach them
Hmm.
on, it's all them. I don't add any of like my personal, journaling in there. It's just their journal and coaching along the lines of, you
Is
know,
this like
adjust.
is this
Go
like a
ahead.
document that you guys share with each other,
Yep.
or how's
Yep.
that? Okay, okay, I like that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So you'll put tips in there as you feel like they look like they might need it. Okay, that makes
Yep.
sense. I love
So,
that.
and they can end up if they have questions or, I was really stressed this day and, what do I need to do or what can I do if this situation? And I'm able to, put suggestions in there. And then we do end up and check in once a week through Zoom. So we end up when we sit down and, really go in depth and work through some of the deeper problems that they may have.
I love your style. This is great. Yeah, they're very in depth. So this is good.
Mhm.
So typically your calls are right about 30 minutes, right? Because that's
Yep.
kind of hard to cover all of that in that little time, right?
It
I just
is,
have to
and that's
ask.
yeah, yep. So sometimes I run a little bit over, but I told my clients today, I said, one of the parts of, like for instance, meditation is you slow the thinking, you end up and slow the breathing down, you relax. And I said, I've gotten really good at talking really fast because I
Ah,
got to get a lot of
not
information
in.
in a short
Yes.
amount of time. So
Yes.
I tend to, and that's where the journal comes in nicely. So we can end up and we have the journal and I can, go through and they don't have to think about their questions or, it's like boom, boom, boom. These are the points that I need to address. These are, and then if there are other questions that maybe have come up in the week, then we end up and we take those, we spend some time on, talking about those. If they have struggles or anything like that, we talk about that. But it does, when you only have 30 minutes and you try to get a lot in, because it
Yeah.
can be a overwhelming when, at first. Um, when you're new to it, when you're new to the lifestyle, it can be overwhelming because you hear so many different, I've referenced a tree. We all have branches of, the lifestyle that we're on. We're all rooted in we're seeking health. And so they'll hear someone, out there that says low fat, high protein. They'll hear,
Right.
all these different styles of, well, I should do this and not do that, or I should, and so it is a lot to try and get in. And
It is.
within, certain research articles, I'm able to support all of it. I'm not saying that
Hmm.
any of the ways are wrong, but I'm able to explain, this is why they say, high protein. And obviously the clients that I have that are 20 years old are going to be different than the ones that are 70 years
That's
old that
right.
I'm coaching.
Absolutely.
So, taking each lifestyle and saying, yes, this influencer may be, a 20-year-old person or 30-year-old person, but that's not going to work for you when you're 70, 80 years old.
I
You've got
agree.
to end up and make it work for you. And so, yeah, meeting them where they are and making it individualized, but yet explaining, because I think there is a lot of confusion out there.
Yeah. Now you've had many, many clients. What client would you have to say that really stands out as far as what transformation you saw come from them? I mean, don't name names. I'm just curious about the event and the one of the big
um
wows you had, I guess.
so I've had several. It's really hard to pick just
Yes, I
one,
know.
because I've had a type 1
Oh man.
diabetic that has regained her health and has actually decreased the amount of insulin that she has to use.
Wow.
Um, I have another client that has done, the higher fat approach and
Mhm.
is able to come off medicine for
That's
mental
amazing.
health.
I think that one's amazing.
So, and I've had others along the way that have gone from being, very, I don't want to say lethargic, but sedentary into being able to go to the gym and work out in a in a senior program. I don't want to say citizen,
Wow.
but a senior program, um, and be active again,
That's amazing.
So it's hard to choose just one because they're all so individual
Yeah.
that they each, and that is just so, heartwarming. And I'm very grateful to them. They put in the work and they did it. But yeah, it's just to end up and see that, and I've had others that have lost weight, but I've also ended up and had those that maybe struggled in the beginning, and were really hesitant to trust the process, but
Yes.
ended up and stuck with it and trusted the process and come out glorious on the other side, and it's all, like I've said, it's a lifestyle. There's no really end goal. We're always working on something, Um, so
That's a good question. Then, how do you convince them that it's a lifestyle, not just a hell? I'm off my meds. I don't need to do this anymore, kind of thing. I have a hard
well,
time with
and that yeah. So, and the one that, was on medicine for mental health, she knows this is what I've got to do in
that. Right.
order to, I've got to make this my lifestyle, my life, if I want to end up and live med free, this is now, let me stop and say, she is working with a practitioner. I was not the one that ended up and
Right.
took her
Of
off
course.
the medicine,
Yes.
just for all the people listening. Um, she was working with a practitioner to come off those medicines, but I was there to support her on, the lifestyle side of things. And so she knows I've got to do this lifestyle now. Does she have to maybe be as high, as she progresses? Maybe not necessarily, as long as we can keep her higher, a little bit higher fat to protein, so she can keep, that ketosis going,
Yeah.
because that's what she's thriving on right now, are those
Yes.
ketones.
Yes.
Um, so convincing them that it's a lifestyle really along the way, and that's where the self reflection and the gratitudes and everything come into
Hmm.
play.
Hmm.
because they end up and they see those positives, they see those little markers instead of, focusing just on the scale or focusing on, this the outward things. It's like, okay, my joints are better, I'm able to move better, I'm not as tired, it's all these self-reflecting things that, and having it in black and white in the journal, it's like, okay, let's go back, a month ago. You were dealing with, all these issues, but
Yes,
you're
yes.
saying, that this is feeling better. So you are seeing the progress. It's just not, maybe not, the scale. And I hate the scale to death, even though I,
Right,
use it and weigh myself.
right.
I hate it because it likes to lie to a lot of people, and, it definitely does not define us. So we also take, some of them take pictures and measurements and, you know, use all these other milestone markers, um, as their momentum also.
Gosh, I love the journal idea. That's a wonderful idea because you're right. I mean, so many things have passed me by that I don't remember what I
Mm.
had. So, and when you feel good, it's almost like, you had a thorn in your finger and you know it's there that whole time when it's there, but when it's off, you're like, oh, there's nothing,
Yep,
everything's fine, it's always been fine, So
yep.
it's the same with carnivore. When the thorn's out, you feel fine. So it's great. Wow, Becky. Well, thank you. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen you, and it's been hard to get in touch with you. But I'm glad we did, and finally did this coach to coach. So I really appreciate
Absolutely.
you. Come on. If any clients want to get with you, and tell us how they can reach you.
So I am on MeterX. My coaching profile is on MeterX.
Hmm.
I also am on Instagram.
Hmm.
You can reach out through there. I do have a link tree that goes to my website. It also goes to my coaching profile, um, along with, many other options in regards to some of the products that I use.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm very active on Instagram, more so than Instagram and Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, that, like, I post all my meals, I post all my data, all of that type of stuff. So those two kind of sync together with each other. I'm really trying to, put out more videos on the YouTube aspect, but, um, for now anyway, Instagram and Facebook are the two that I'm most active.
Well, you're doing fantastic on your YouTube of the contents that you have. I direct a lot of my clients there, so I really appreciate you doing that type of work. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's just under my name, so Becky Niles on YouTube, Becky Niles Carnivore and EO on Instagram.
perfect. I will put all that in the show notes, and I really appreciate your time for us today. Thank you, Becky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.